Hello, friends. It's Chapo. I was interested to read was that, in the stages of like, are we going to air this? And then it was just like, okay, well, maybe if we do air it, then we need the co-host Robbie Suave to issue an editorial about the editorial that simply states Jonathan Greenblatt and the ADL's objection to what Rachida Lee Tlaib said, which was already included in
Yeah.
your
So what
original
they did,
monologue.
right? So before they told me they wouldn't be running it, the first sign that something weird had happened was that they came in, the producers, and one of the producers was like, "Yeah, sorry, we have to run we have to get a pickup." And they had Robbie, who's the libertarian. There's one left wing host, one right wing host. He's a libertarian, and they had him like repeat what Jonathan Greenblatt had already said, that because Jake Tapper, in the clip that I show, Jake Tapper shows Jonathan Greenblatt's tweet. And then so Robbie repeated that and also had a statement about Jonathan Greenblatt calling Amnesty International. So they wanted to make sure they get that in there. Now, I didn't really I was like, maybe I should have shut my mouth, but I remember when he said that, I was like, well, Jonathan Greenblatt can try to say that about Amnesty International, but what is the deal with B'Tselem? They're all just a cabal of self-loathing Jews. I said something like that. But then again, it was when I was leaving that they told me they wouldn't be running it. And so we went back and forth over a couple of days, and I was kind of like outraged and couldn't believe it. But I was told that you could do segments on Israel, just not op-eds. So in theory, I could appear as a guest and talk about it.
Well, okay, well that's an interesting distinction. You could do
Yeah.
so they would be fine if you did a segment
Yeah.
on the fact that B'Tselem and many other prominent human rights groups, both Israeli and otherwise, have declared Israel to be an apartheid state. Would that be an objective news segment? I highly doubt that they would take it that way.
Right. I mean, they wouldn't, but that was what I was told. I was told that it's a weird nomenclature and classification system, but I guess for them, the op-ed, when they say op-ed, they mean a written op-ed or a straight to the camera, like prepared spiel, so to speak. And what they were telling me, and I don't honestly know if this was true. I don't know if the Hill really had this policy or if they were trying to like placate the producers. But they told me that I could do that, segments were possible on this issue. So we go back and forth over a couple of days. I'm trying to figure out if they can play my radar, but have an opposing view afterwards. Have Robbie say more stuff, get like Jonathan Greenblatt on there to respond to it, have me debate someone, whatever. I really am committed to getting the radar out there because I think it's important. And I mean, I don't feel great about myself, like making these. I think, of course, it should be able to run as a radar, like every other radar that they run happens to that. But you make some kind of compromises when you're dealing with media like this, when you want the media to get out there, right? And not to sound like cheesy about it, but it really is because I care about these issues. It's not like I want to get my voice out there to create,
get more follows or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. For like clickbait and more likes on YouTube and more followers on YouTube or whatever. I just really think that these are important stories, and they're very rarely get any shine on anything remotely mainstream or corporate. So I was trying to figure out how to, maybe we could do it that way. And then their editor in chief calls me and he's like, "We're not going to run it." And he's like, "It's not in our sweet spot of coverage. We really do domestic." And then he was also, which is not true. And I mean,
I've seen plenty of coverage of foreign policy in the Hill.
Yeah. And then he's like, we get lots of pitches. We don't take them all. But that's not how the radars work. You rate your radar, as Ryan said himself, because he's done it, like he's estimated 150 times. You literally email the radar, they take it and they put it in the teleprompter. Like that's the editorial process, as in no editorial process. And, because in theory, and this is good, they trust their hosts with their radars, like with their monologues. They're not allegedly not pushing a party line or a certain dogma or certain angle.
Yeah, I mean, I can't stress enough, like how much, like to the extent that I'm aware of it, like Rising has been billed as like a kind of a cutting edge platform for voices on the left and right that are otherwise marginalized.
Exactly.
From
Yeah.
This is not just CNN or MSNBC or Fox News.
Yes.
They're going to give voices to like the actual left or like the actual like libertarian or I don't know, Trumpist right or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, this issue, it was the one that So just sort of like blank, like every conceivable, like, it tripped every fucking conceivable tripwire that they have
Yeah,
in the
exactly.
organization.
Yeah. So it was this excuse, that excuse, the other, whatever. So then he makes it clear he's not running it. I'm like, okay. So I then text my producers. I'm like, so he told me he's not running it. Can I do this for my segment tomorrow? And the producer's like, this woman should have emailed you. And I check my email, and I have an email that says, allow me to just grab it. It's the subject matter is Rising / The Hill TV, and says, "Hi, Katie. We want to let you know that we will not be needing you to appear on Rising AM tomorrow AM. Please feel free to submit any unpaid invoice for your work on Rising. We wish you all the best. Thank you."
That's nice of them.
Yeah, yeah,
So like, I suppose, like, at no point in this process did anyone take objection or even say there was anything wrong with the segment you did, like, or like or took issue with any of the facts presented
no,
in it or your point of view, or like,
not that
or
I know of. At least not to me.
or
And
even said that this is offensive to the values of our company. It was just sort of
no,
like unstated, and it was just like your services are no longer required here.
right? Yeah, that was it.
All right, well then, let me get to like the larger, like, the larger issue about like Israel Palestine and the media.
Yeah,
Look, this is an issue that is like, there's a lot of issues like this, but like this is a very glaring example of which, like, in the U.S. media, in print or on television or radio or whatever, if you're offering an opinion or even covering a news story, this is like the one issue in which there is a hegemonic agreement on what can and can't be said, and it is all pro-Israeli. It all just like essentially takes the Israeli government's point of view as the objective truth, and if you stray from that, then you are getting into dangerous territory that no one wants to touch. Do you think that this is like the absurdity of your situation, and like the absurdity of like the vehemence of which these groups like police the boundaries of discourse over Israel Palestine? Do you think that it is getting worse because of the increasingly obvious pressure that the Israeli government has? I mean, like, they just murdered an American journalist more or less in full view of the
right,
entire world, denied it, then admitted to it, and then like our own State Department is just like, like, much to consider here.
right.
We're waiting for more information to come in. But
Yeah,
now that there is at least just one member of the U.S. Congress who is willing to state that, hey, look, if you want to call yourself a progressive, then you've got to get real about what Israel represents, and like you can't be for, justice or pro civil rights, pro human rights in America and the rest of the world,
right.
and look the other way when Israel just continues to occupy and brutalize the Palestinian people.
Right, yeah. You
Like, so
can't be
is it a
a
matter of like,
progressive except on Palestine, as it's
is
called.
that is it like, do you think like the absurdity and vehemence of like the cracking down and like reinforcing these borders literally about what is in and out of polite
Yeah,
opinion
so
on
to
this
speak,
topic?
right.
Do you think it's because the Israeli government itself, at least as it regards the American public opinion, and by public opinion I mean young liberal people, like people under 40 who generally have a liberal or progressive point of view, it is becoming harder and harder and harder to maintain the fiction that Israel is a sort of like an admirable country, or that their conduct on the world stage is something that can be ignored or apologized for?